Do we have any declarations of interest on the agenda? I have one on the updated agenda, which was the tree preservation order, Dragview Cottage, Almouth Road, Alnwick. I do know the lady involved, and I've had some correspondence with her with regard to this, so I'll step out from that that discussion. I know you've already discussed it when I wasn't at the meeting. I think Martin has shared that one. Let's come back to us. Okay, nothing else anyone got to declare? So what we'll do is we'll move on to the presentation by Peter Reid. So welcome to Peter Reid and to Ian Hall, joined us from Alnwick Civic Society tonight. They have a couple of updates for us on things that they've been working with, matters which we've discussed before, but I'll let Peter Reid pick it up to see where we are, because we want to give us an update. So Peter, it's all yours.
Okay, thanks Martin. Thanks to everybody for the opportunity. Martin's asked me to keep this to 10 minutes, so that's what I will aim to do, at least for before we start the discussion. We wanted to cover two things. One's the shopfront design guide, and one's the retail to residential conversion checklist. If I start with the shopfront design guide, it's 25 years since the Civic Society produced the Alnwick shopfront design guide, and there's a copy there. I guess everybody's familiar with that. In those days, of course, the planning decisions were taken by the town council, and it was the town council that commissioned it from the Civic Society. Not long after we did that, the Civic Society also did a survey of Alnwick streets, and a photographic survey, and those have been scanned by Bailiff Gate Museum. You can see them on the Bailiff Gate collection site. And if anyone hasn't seen them, I think it's certainly, as someone who's moved it to Alnwick in that time, it's quite interesting to look back at how much has changed since 25 years ago, and huge improvement in the standard of design on shop fronts. The reason for that, I mean, we'd like to claim it's because of the guide, but I think the real reason is that owners and traders have invested in improving the standard of the buildings. And of course, they've done that because it's what makes Alnwick attractive. It's what brings people in to shop. We're at a stage now where that commercial investment in the town centre is probably more important than it's been at any point in the last 25 years. So what we set out to, we didn't know that when we set out on this, but we set out with the principle that we wanted to help encourage investment in the town centre. We didn't want to introduce new rules, make things more strict. The idea was to try and encourage investment and to protect the existing investment. What triggered it was a couple of examples of changes in shop fronts in the town that our members had very strong feelings about, felt were bringing down the standard in the town centre. And I don't think we were alone in that. I think that was a common feeling across the town. So we gave quite a lot of thought at that stage as to what was the right thing to do. By now, of course, planning decisions are taken at county level. But in practice, the incentive to comply with guidance is a more local thing. It's peer pressure that keeps people in line. So the approach that we discussed and in the end agreed was with county conservation officers was that they would produce a county-wide guide, and that we as a civic society in conjunction with the town council would provide localization for Alnwick. So they set off just over a year ago to produce something along these lines. This is the Hexham guide. I don't know who's seen it, but it's an A4 set of guidance designed specifically for Hexham, but the actual content is generic. It's something that would apply equally to Alnwick. So they went off to produce an Alnwick version of that. They were also planning to produce versions for other towns in the county. And we were expecting that to be published around the middle of this year, but of course, I think it's pretty obvious that that's been disrupted by subsequent events. So, but that's underway. We've provided over 100 photographs for it. We've provided some text as an introduction, and the production people in county and the conservation team in county are working on it. So I wanted to go through that, not so much because we're thinking of changing anything. That route's laid down now. But when it is introduced, it's going to need local support if it's going to have any effect. The problem with this guidance isn't the guidance, it's whether people follow it or not. So we're keen that there's a significant local support for that. There was 12 months ago, but obviously 12 months on, things might have changed. So the first question for you this evening is, are you still comfortable that that's the route we're taking? And are you happy that that's going, when we end up with the guidance, that it's what we want locally?
Does anybody have any specific thoughts on that?
Well, no, it's it's what we've been looking for, isn't it? That's what we need.
Yeah. Jeff Watson.
Yeah, just to say, Peter, that totally support that view. I remember the old guide, and it was widely used. I remember referring to it often when I was at the trust. So yeah, I think a new guide is a great idea, and I would expect the town council to fully support that.
Linda.
Yeah, me too. I look forward to it. I'm really looking forward to it. And just wonder how much the planning officers actually refer to it. As you know, we can do what we do here, but if the planning officers don't refer to it, did they use the other one effectively?
I would say that they didn't, Linda. I think the problem was the other one was an Alnwick one, and they had a different one for Berwick and a different one for Morpeth and a different one for Hexham, and
Right. So having one that was similar across the whole county would possibly ensure that they were better. It was better used.
I would hope so. And in practice, they all say the same thing.
Yeah.
The weird thing about this is they all said the same thing.
Yeah.
Jeff, have you got something on this specific point?
Yeah, just to I recall that I think it was the then district council used to give out shopfront grants, and the district council would often refer to the guide as a guide to people applying for grants. So I think it was used quite often certainly when the grants were being distributed.
Okay, Martin, you had a point.
Yeah, thanks, Martin. It was just on the lines of discussed this quite a bit, and I'm supporting what the civic society is after. But we all have the frustrations as town councillors, as realising that it's always a retrospective situation that we're dealing with. Every time's retrospective. People just put what they want as sub frontage, and we've been really hard on this in the past. And town councillors and people have reported to the enforcement officer certain situations, but like everybody's saying, and I agree with, it's only as good as the people who police the thing. You can produce the documents, you can do anything you like, but if it's not enforced, then everybody's kind of wasting that time. So I think the time now is to change, and once you get the new document produced, Peter, is make sure that it is adhered to, otherwise we're all kind of wasting our time.
John Humphreys.
Yeah, I think the main problem is still going to be trying to overcome corporate logos and corporate colouring, and that's going to be the difficulty, I think, otherwise. And I don't know what powers we have to to change that, unfortunately.
Yeah, unfortunately, we don't have very much power, but what we can do, if we have a design guide which is current and relevant, and we have pictures of Anik, we can draw attention to it.
Sure.
I think
Yeah, I
that'd be
agree.
quite powerful. Yes,
Well,
Jeff,
hopefully, yeah.
final point on this stage.
Yeah, Mark, just occurred to me, we're about to revise or bring up to date the local plan, and I was wondering if there was any way we could somehow incorporate the design guide into that. That might be a way of giving it a bit of muscle.
Yes, Janet, you may know that.
In there already, Jeff.
Yeah, so I think
In
it's
there
Yeah,
already.
I know it is, but it's
Yeah.
I was rather making it giving it some muscle rather than just referring to it.
Yeah, I think planning officers know it's there because we reference it. Their feedback would be it's very old. So therefore, by definition, they don't use it as much as they perhaps should because it's old.
okay, which is the very reason for updating it,
Yeah.
which is good. Okay, Peter.
Could I just, I'll move on now to the retail to residential thing, but just to pick up and agree with the points that Martin and John made. We've looked at this though, that there are actually two quite different problems. There's an issue with people who understand the guidance but don't feel they need to follow it. And that's rarely local people. The issue with local people is more often that they're exactly the people we want investing in the town centre, but then their understanding of the regulations is less thorough. So we think we've got a problem helping people, particularly independent traders, understand what's required so that they don't invest and then have to rework stuff. That's one problem, and that's why we want a local element to get that support. And then we've got the enforcement problem, which tends to be the national players, where we need to be following guidance that the planning officers are prepared to impose. I don't know if that helps make that distinction.
Yeah, and on the first point, Peter, I think obviously working with town council, the difficult town council is we see the applications, as Martin pointed out. Unfortunately, some of the most tricky ones, we see them in retrospectively.
Exactly. Yeah.
So it is the matter of working with people like the Chamber of Trade and other organisations in the town. And town
trying to mentor people
it.
early in the process rather than come along at it.
Absolutely, because that's the very best we can do on
that. Retail to resident. Oh.
Yeah, Martin.
Well, just to give you a key example, people, you're all sitting here tonight and we've got a new trader in the town, trespass outdoor. We've got a brand new sign up. There's been no plan application. There's been no design structure, nothing. Not a squeak. And we've only found out by pure chance that as a new trader, they've never introduced themselves. I think they might have went around the shops or whatever. But that's the whole point of why we sit on computers and do civic societies and do town council. There's no structure.
Yep.
You just get on with it. So that's my frustration, and you can sense in my voice. We've been around this 3 and 4 times. It just goes around and around and around. The town council's discussed it, they were blue in the face. Still no further forward, I'm afraid.
Yes, Linda.
That sign is a temporary sign. I had a good look at it yesterday, so I was hoping that it's a temporary sign until they got planning permission for whatever sign they want to put up.
Okay, so we'll move on, Peter, to the next stage.
It's got temporary written on it. Just say it.
Okay, right.
Retail to residential. I'm conscious that we're using your time now, so I'll keep this as brief as I can. We're beginning to see applications coming through for converting retail to residential properties, and we're dealing with those as we normally do. It's something that we would want to encourage. We're sure you want to encourage because it's bringing life into the centre of town. It's bringing investment in the properties, more footfall and so on. It's good for the community. It's good for antisocial behaviour, all sorts of reasons why we would want to encourage it. There is, at the moment, there is no local guidance and there's no national guidance on how to go about doing retail to residential conversions. The reason Ian Hall's here is he had discussions with the conservation officers in Northumberland and also with Historic England about what guidance they're issuing in this area. And everybody's agreeing that it's needed, but there isn't any at the moment. They pointed us towards some examples of good practice, which were, I think from memory, were both at a district council level. And we then adapted that into a checklist, first of all, for our use, so that when these applications come through, we can deal with them efficiently and effectively. And then it occurred to us that they might be useful for you as well. And we've got, it's it's 1 page tick box thing, which you won't be able to see here, but it's very straightforward. The idea being that it makes it easier for us to check things like, is there parking, is there space for rubbish bins, is there privacy, are they complying with the structure, the shape of the design of the building and so on. What we would like to do, we've adopted this, we're hoping that you will agree it'll be useful for yourselves as well. And what we would like to do is to go back to Northumberland and to the conservation officers and to Historic England to say, yes, it's been adopted in Alnwick. And the reason we're keen to do that is that we hope will then encourage them to develop it nationally. We don't have the resources as a civic society to produce the kind of guidance that would be useful. We suspect you don't, and the way things are going, the government's looking for much, much stricter codes, which we think may be difficult even at Northumberland level to produce. So this kind of checklist is a step, we feel is a step in the right direction that will then help people build on experience and develop more useful guidance as time goes on. So essentially the question is this something that you're able to use that we can then go back to these other people and say, thanks for your help. We've decided to adopt it locally. We hope that you will adopt it more widely. That felt very quick. Was that too quick?
That's fine. I mean, councillors have already discussed this checklist. I don't know whether we need to stick it up on the screen. Is everybody fair with what's on the checklist? Everybody's nodding their heads there. Yeah, that's good. Do people feel that it's something that the town council can use in our decision-making process and should be using?
Yep.
Okay, I've got a number of nodding heads here. I haven't got any shaking heads, so I'm going to take that as being positive. Yes, Martin. Oh, good. Okay. Has anybody got any questions at all on the checklist? No. Well, looks like you've got the assent of the town council, and that we will use that checklist to help us guide us and make sure we haven't forgotten anything. Basically, I mean, things like, we don't need to go on about them, but things like bins and that sort of thing, we talk about endlessly. Yes, Linda.
I should say we've got the consensus of this committee rather than the council, but I'm sure it'll be fine when we take it to council.
Well, to be fair on planning issues, this is the voice of the council. So,
it is really,
yeah, it is.
Technically for the minutes rather than...
Yeah. Okay, well, thank you, Peter.
Well, thank you. Apologies for overrunning slightly, but appreciate the time.
No, that's good. That's good.
Thank you for all the work you've done. I think it'll be very useful.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
We'll
Thanks very much.
Then.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you, Ian.
Thanks, Ian.
Right, so we'll move on to approval of the minutes of the previous meeting. You've all had your minutes and seen them. Can I have a proposer, please, for the adoption of the minutes? Thank you, Jeff. And seconder, thank you, Linda. All those in favour? I think that's everybody. That's good. Right, any matters arising from the minutes? We start with page 1, page 2, page 3, page 4, page 5. I've got 5 pages. I'm not sure what you've got, because mine printing is always a bit interesting. One thing I'm arising, obviously, the TPO request for the Duke School trees went to the local area planning committee and was passed, which I think is good news. And thank you very much to all the work that Janet has done on that over the past few years, because I know it's been a bit of a plug to get Rutland County Council to take that on board. Yes, Linda?
I raised some issues about Peters Mill Lane. There are more issues, and I think it would be better. It's more about the footpath and the pavement outside the front of on Allenmouth Road. So if it's all right, I'll bring it up under any other business.
Yes, or we can do it now. I know Peter Hatley has had a discussion, because I asked him to update to this meeting, so we can discuss this now.
I had an email from Tricia via an arrow email. They are doing work on the culvert. They're sorting out the drains, which we fully understand. That's absolutely needs to be done. But in doing so, they've totally destroyed the temporary footpath which they reinstated because of the condition of the new diverted footpath. And there's been no work done on the diverted footpath, and the temporary one is now impassable because they've got very heavy machinery going across it. I've written to Lee, and I can't remember who the other person is, to ask them for their reassurances that it will be reinstated into a condition that people can walk on again. The other issue is the path outside our houses now, and it's been totally dug up to move 2 lamp posts and put 2 drop curbs in, one to move a neighbour's drive so that it's better access and less dangerous, and the other for the bus stop, which is also being moved. That's the good news, because that means that will be resurfaced, and that was where some of the problems on Allenmouth Road footpath were. But yeah, that it's the footpath. I was going to say 13, but that's on the other planning application. Anyway, what was originally the Peters Mill Lane footpath.
Okay, thank you, Linda. I think Peter Hatley has something to update on this.
Yeah, I contacted Liz O'Brien today at County Hall. Liz is I get the impression from what I could glean from Liz, there's been quite a lot of dialogue between her and the developer and people contacting her, etc. What I've got Liz to do, she's agreed to meet me. It doesn't have to be just me, or it could be me and Martin, or me and anybody else on site on the 18th of January. It's probably a little bit further down the road than I'd hoped. I hope to get there a little bit quicker. But what that does do is it gives us an opportunity, I think, to pull everything together, to put in front of Liz and actually have a walk around the site when she's there. Hopefully that's a positive step.
Okay, thank you, Peter. Yes, Martin Harrington.
Just a question for Linda again. Linda, are these contractors going for the greatest world record of how many times you can pull a road up and put traffic lights on that road? I have never, in all my creation, unbelievable the amount of times that road's being put up. It's just disgrace. They're ashamed. They should be ashamed of themselves, and it's been logged somewhere. Because if it comes up again, mate, they must be gone for a target. Sorry, like.
I think Martin have already broken their own record on that one.
I think they have. Just one other point. I don't know if everybody's aware, but Peters Mill Lane has been renamed Somerset Avenue. The whole of Peters Mill Lane is now Somerset Avenue. If you Google it on Google Maps, it actually, Somerset Avenue becomes our drive. We haven't had anybody trying to come down the drive yet, but it's on Google Maps, it's shown as our drive. and I think Peters Mill Lane is still signposted Peters Mill Lane, but they've changed the name, and the name is at the top of what was where the bus stop was, and it goes all the way down the original route.
Okay, thank you, Linda. John Humphreys.
Yeah, if I remember rightly, when they put the planning through for the development at Greensfield, we as a town council were given some ideas as to potential names of streets. I mean, the first ones they came up with were to do with Hogwarts, and of course they were rejected. But I mean, we did have some notification before they started putting up the street signs. Once again, it appears that you know, this little outfit down there have decided to go their own way. Surely we should have at least been given some indication.
Yeah, I believe, I'm not entirely sure what exactly it's unclear what exactly our powers as a town council are with regard to street naming, but we do have some function there at least. But we haven't been, Janet might be able to advise us.
Yeah, we normally get a list of suggested names, and it's a bit like a treaker. If we don't say we don't like them, then that's what they will run with. Yeah. Which is why we've got Redwood Rise at Alaban House at the site there. So if we don't like them, we have to say why we don't and what we prefer. But if we don't do anything, they will just run with the names. But we've had nothing. I've made a little note to check tomorrow with the officer as to whether that's coming or it should have come out.
Thank you, Janet.
Retrospective again.
Yeah, Jeff Watson.
Yeah, so I was making a similar point to John, actually. I thought they had to ask, they have permission to change an existing. It's not as if they're building a new lane, it's an existing lane, and I can't understand how they can have the authority to change the name of an existing lane to something that they want. I think we should challenge that.
Yes, Linda.
Yeah, you do have to have permission to change the name of the road, because that happened where I was before. And for me, that's a historic lane. It's been there for a very long time, and it just seems such a shame. It's an unnecessary change for that particular lane to be renamed.
I think it's breathtakingly arrogant, and I think we should challenge it.
Yep, I agree.
Okay, I think what we'll do there is then instruct Janet to find out the ins and outs of what is happening, what the process is, and also what the legality is of changing what is obviously an established name on a part of the town. Okay, so in terms of going forward with the enforcement issues, though, we have a meeting on the 18th of January. I guess assuming that we don't have more stringent COVID rules, etc., then we maybe one or two of us may be able to go along to that meeting. So I saw tonight, I haven't read it, but there was an email from Ara, presumably on this issue.
That's what I was referring to,
okay.
Just before I came onto the meeting.
Yeah. So we will take any concerns forward at that point, I think, either via Peter or myself at least. Jeff Watson.
I'll just propose that Linda attend that meeting. If you're okay with that, Linda, I think you're the most knowledgeable, or probably more than.
I was going to ask. Yeah, thank you, Jeff. I was going to ask if it would be appropriate for me to attend, because I think it would be useful for me to hear what the enforcement officer is saying, as much as bringing the knowledge of all the issues that we've observed.
I'm okay with that. Peter?
Yeah, I'm just thinking it might be worth, arranged to meet at midday. It might be worth potentially meeting somewhere else prior to going up to the site. So you can, certainly Linda, if you're going to be there, if you can sort of give Liz a rundown on the issues, I think that would be helpful before we actually go to the site.
Okay. Right, are there any other matters rising from the minutes? No. Okay, we will move on to minutes previous meeting, including notified outcomes. Okay, so minute responses made since the last meeting. Do we have any, Janet?
We just had the one that we carried over for the Feld TPO at the lodge. So we discussed it at the meeting, then we put our comments in slightly afterwards. So that's the only one.
Okay, is this the one that's back on the agenda this month?
No, that's Cragview.
Okay, it's a different one.
Yeah, it's a different one, yeah.
Okay.
But it will probably be back on the agenda at some point, I would think.
All right. Okay, so the planning outcomes notified to date. Thornbury apartment, this was a variation of condition 4 pursuant to planning permission to enable the use of recreation room in connection with approved holiday lets was granted. I think we had some concerns about that. I don't know whether you've looked at that response, Janet, to see whether there's anything. No, okay. Arkle Court, construction single-storey extension was granted. Arwinside, construction of 2-storey extension granted. 58 Oaky Balks, single-storey re-extension granted. Hope House Lane, proposed off-street parking for number 1 Hope House Cottages has been withdrawn at this point. We had 1 or 2 comments on that. I don't think we objected as such, but I think we had 1 or 2 comments on that. 46 The Duntons, we've talked about this one quite a lot. Construction of garden store and raised planting bed to front elevation within courtyard was granted. I think we did object to that one, if I recall, in the end. And lastly, Oddfellows Arms, variation of conditions, construction method statements, amendments to plans and elevation to reflect revised proposals that we have property was granted. Okay, does anyone have any comments at that point? Vent any frustration? Okay, so we'll move on to planning applications. I can see you, Martin. Okay, so beginning of the list, 20-03-815 Verico, land northeast of Close Cottage, Rugley Road, Alnwick, Northumberland. Variation of condition 2, approved plans of application 18-02144 FUL, updated design of clubhouse and site layout. Have we got a picture we can share on the screen?
Yeah, which document would you like to see first, Martin?
Well, I think the new kind of we know. I think does everybody know where we're talking about in terms of the location plan? We've discussed this site before. So if we could just go to the kind of the proposed elevations, really, I think is the main document.
Bear with me. Is that the one, Martin?
That's that gives us the overview. Yeah, that's the plan. Okay, so this application, as I understand it, is for the new golf course clubhouse, and this is a variation on an application which was approved a year or so ago. And as far as I can see, what they've done here is they've reduced the scale of the clubhouse, and it did originally have some living accommodation in there, and that's been removed, so that there was sort of room and roof sort of situation. Those have been removed, and now it's simply a ground floor building, which is a clubhouse with a bar and a dining area and a kitchen, etc. Does anyone have any thoughts?
I'm just going to put the original design up, Martin, so people can see how it's changed.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
It's slightly changed, slightly smaller. There isn't a lot of detail on this, on the new application in terms of materials and that sort of thing. One would assume that it's going to be similar in terms of what they've proposed before, but that's one thing that I've noticed, that there doesn't seem to be a lot of detail about exactly what the materials, etc. are. Obviously, it's basically in the same location. I think there are some electric car charging points going into the 3, I think, going into the car park, which is a positive thing. It was something we commented on last time. The thing that we commented on last time, just from memory, and I just had a quick look at the officer report from the original application, was that the bridleway that you see running down the front of there, which runs down to towards Greensfield Farm there, we commented that we would like to see that kind of upgraded because they are putting cycle racks in here at the golf course. So obviously, from that point of view, they're sort of trying to attract people to cycle up there. But in the winter time, that gets quite muddy, that track up there. And it does join right into the new cycle route from the new estate at Greensfield, the Taylor Wimpey estate, because that cycle route runs all the way down through that estate, right down to kind of the new Dutchess High School. So again, I don't know whether we'll get anywhere with it, but again, I would like to put that comment in that we would like to see that that route upgraded to a surfaced. It doesn't need to be tarmac, but an all-weather surface. Basically, that would be helpful for people walking up there and for people cycling up there to gain access without having to drive right round. Yes, Martin.
It's just for information purposes, being an Alnwick all my life and been up there. That was physically a two-track road right the way through Martin, which went from, we call it Dr. Cochrane's house, which is a big house, which was like a Swedish-style house. And there was gates right the way through there. And when you come to the end, then you turn right up onto the main road. So that road was actually a roadway. It had gates. So over the years, the grass has grown over the top, but if you were to scrape it back, it goes back down to Hoggan or Ray Cobbles. It's a cobbled road, but the grass has grown over the top and other things have happened. But that was an access road, always has been, but it's overgrown.
Okay, so from that basis, it's probably quite a hard base under there. It wouldn't be a big job to actually put a surface onto it, as some of the paths on the golf course do have a surface on them, don't they? So maybe there will be something that could be done there. Yeah, Peter Edge.
What I've got concern about this, I mean, I know it's been granted, so this is just a modification, really, isn't it, that they're doing? So what they can add in now, what my concerns are that the road at the top there is used, very heavily for cyclists and walkers. There's always people up there walking the dog, and it's a nice, safe environment, and people do this, and runners and things like this. And so my concern is on that road that it's not wide enough for like lots of cars at the quantity that they're saying, as well as for pedestrians and things. What would be really helpful is if there were two passing points, and it actually improved the road going right the way up there, because I think that could be a problem. And then furthermore, sort of going to the south of that, you go onto single track road, and you go on to eventually you go across a ford, and you would go to the A1. Now in their statement about this, they've said that all traffic will be coming from the north, and they're anticipating quite a lot of cars coming from the north there. It doesn't make any, if you are travelling from the south to go to the clubhouse, it wouldn't make any sense at all to go through Alnwick and around that way. It would make sense to go from the south, because I know, because I live there. So you knock about 10 minutes of time off if you miss the junction and decide to go that way, rather than if you go the north. So all traffic is going to be, from the south, will be coming from the south. And I don't think there's any plans for them to improve improve the road there. And there aren't any crossing, or hardly any passing places to be thought of there. And I think I worked out, they said that at its busiest peak, I can't remember what it was. It's something like, got in my head here, it was about, you would have a car coming from there every 6 minutes. And so, something like this. So you would be passing another car twice on your route if you're coming from the south, to assume half the number of cars there. But anyway, my point being that, cars will be passing quite often coming from the south, and they will be coming from the south as well. And they're not doing any improvement works on the south side. And that's going to be hazardous. It's used by tractors and other vehicles. And in any case, there's a ford, which I've seen in other years has had cars go straight into it and get landed there. So it is a bit of a hazard, and I just think it's an omission if they're not improving the south side of that route, really. So those are the two concerns I have. One is for pedestrians and one is for cars coming from the south.
Okay, thank you, Peter. Yes, I'm not sure. I think there possibly were some points about passing places put into the original application. I'm not sure on the Rugley road down to Battlements, that direction. But you're absolutely right about the direction to the south, because if you're following SatNav, it will bring you off the A1 and up that back route, and it really isn't very wide at all. So and there are lots of people walk their dogs on it and cycle down it on a regular basis. So I think that is something we do need to highlight to the planning officer, because a golf course that's attracting people to come from not just Alnwick but further south will be attracting visitors, and they will come in that direction. There's no doubt about it. In the days of SatNav, if we didn't have SatNav, probably they would come to Alnwick and then work their way up to it. And I don't think there's very much you can do, short of closing the road. There's not much you can do to actually stop people following their SatNavs and following that along that route. I mean, there's places where SatNavs take people along byways and along riverbeds and all sorts of things, and this is actually a road, so they will use it. So I don't know whether we can put a comment into that that effect, Janet, that we feel that that road needs to be assessed with regard to this development. Peter, I think another point.
I mean, I think you know what signage can be put up there, and I think passing places could be put up there. It'll involve slightly adding better infrastructure, but I just think it's a necessity for them to do so, really.
Yeah, I mean the bit down by the ford itself is very, very narrow, and if you meet somebody head on that section, yeah, you're certainly opening. It's not icy, that's for sure. Does anybody have? I mean, basically the only point is that we didn't object to it before, so I guess we can't really object to it now. But is to put that in quite forcefully that we believe that there does need to be infrastructure improvements and signage improvements on that route into it. Okay, we will move on then to the next application, which is 20-03747 FUL 45 St George's Crescent, Alnwick. Proposed two-storey rear extension. And Peter has left the meeting. Has everybody had a chance to look at this application? Does anyone have any thoughts? No. No, it's essentially well, two-story extension going out at sort of right angles to the semi, if you like, on St George's Crescent. It looks like it's going to be done in keeping with the original building. It's obviously a reasonable size extension, but it obviously will make there's a 2-bedroom houses. I think it will make it into a 3-bedroom with an ensuite and give more living accommodation downstairs. I don't have any issues. Yes, Linda? You're on mute, Linda.
My space bar is not working. The only thought I had is there a precedent? Has there been this type of extension down there before?
Jeff, do you have a answer?
Yeah, I had a look at, there are extensions similar to that. If you look around, if you look on Google Earth, you'll see them, and I don't think there's anything controversial about this one.
No, I thought as much, Jeff. I didn't think about Google Earth, but yeah, I thought there may well have been others.
I suppose what's sometimes a little bit unusual is often single-story extensions go out. It's a double-story extension, which is less usual. But as long as it doesn't affect the neighbours too much, I think it's going to be okay. Okay. We'll move on then to well, the second part of the golf course applications for tonight, which is 20-03816 Verrico Alnwick Golf Club, Swansfield Park Road. Variation of condition 2, approved plans of application 18-01016, if you will, updated design and layout. So this is the Greenkeepers store. I don't know whether you can show us a picture. So the Greenkeepers store is just down the hill from the the clubhouse, and they've submitted, they haven't had an application for a Greenkeeper store, which is a shed essentially. And this is a new Greenkeeper store on that same location. Now, the only thing I can think about this is it must be a slightly smaller footprint, but I'm not 100% sure on that. I don't know if anybody else has any. I don't know if there's actually any scale on the documents that should tell us that. It looks very similar to the original one, but yes, Martin.
I think we might find that with it being a steel structural building, you can't have much input anyway because it's not classed as a dwelling. So it's just advice really, and just trying to get a nod from everybody.
Yeah, I think the only comment we put in last time really was about the colour of the building, that we asked for it to be green. I think that was kind of accepted, it would blend in a bit better. It sits there in a sort of treed kind of area. Anyway, so I'm just not sure whether this is a slightly larger building or a slightly smaller building. I'm not entirely clear on that. It's difficult to tell from the plans. Yes, Peter.
So I'm just reading from the Gazette, and I might be wrong. Okay, so because the development change teed up at the golf club, and the last sentence, which I might have got the wrong end of everything here, but is. In August 2018, the local area council also approved a new Greenkeepers store, a steel frame shed, which also has to free up the housing site. And this too is being amended, including the provision of 9 parking spaces rather than just an informal area. So it sounds like they're adding parking spaces. Does that make sense there?
Well, that does make sense, because on the diagram, on the red line diagram, I don't know whether we could show that, Peter. The red line boundary includes a strip which runs down right to the basically.
Is that on the other application, Martin?
No, this is on this application for the Greenkeeper store. It runs right down to basically the entrance to the original, the current car park of the golf course. So that would make sense that they were putting in, as there is very scant information on this application, that we're putting in a metalled road from the Greenkeeper store. Okay, so there's car parking. Obviously, if you're going to have car parking, you're going to have access for cars. That's the close-up. Was there on the site plan for this, Peter? Have you got that there?
This is the site plan.
The location plan. Sorry.
I'm not sure there was one.
Yes, Linda.
I think on one of the comments it said that they'd reduced the number of park. I think it was from the footpath officer. They'd reduced the number of parking spaces in the main car park. They put in some EV charging points, and there's something, I can't remember exact comment, but she welcomed the reinstatement, and I wasn't sure where they were going to be. And her only other comment was about protecting footpath 13, but there was something in one of the comments about the parking spaces.
Okay, yeah. Well, obviously, if you're going to have parking spaces, you're going to have access via a metalled road. At the minute, it isn't a metalled road; it's a kind of muddy track, as we've discussed. So one would assume that is going to metal road from there. And to be fair, it needs a lot of work doing on it. On the bit that goes down the hill there, it's where it is a metal road. It's a kind of a long line of potholes, basically, for anybody who walks down there or cycles down there. So that would be an improvement, I would say, on that side of it. obviously decided they want car parking spaces at this store for some reason. Does anybody have any other thoughts other than it needing to blend in as well as it can? Yeah. I mean, obviously they're going to need a greenkeeper store if it's going to be a viable golf course. So I think it's okay. Right. Next application is 20-03831 Verico Argos Willowburn Avenue, Alnwick. Variation of condition 1, sale of goods pursuant to planning permission A2006-0205 to ensure consistency between its categorization as use class E under the use class order 2020 and the planning conditions. Wording changed to the following: notwithstanding condition 13 of planning permission A2005-0159, the use of the development hereby approved is use class E of the use class order 2020 and may be used for any use falling under that categorization without restriction. I think Peter had a look at this.
I'm hoping somebody's going to make this all very clear to me.
You can imagine as I sat down this afternoon to look through these plan applications, and this one came up, I thought it'd be a very straightforward change of use. No. It appears that the change of use categorization system has changed. So, and this is the first I've heard of it this afternoon, so I'm going to be a little bit vague. But I guess the general idea is to make it easier for a business to change from one type of business to another. So categories A1, A2, A3, B1, B2, and D1 and D2 are now all under classification, this new classification E. What I'm not clear on is whether a business has to apply to actually certify that they are in that category. It appears that they have done that here in Argos's case, but I can't be certain on that. So I think for us, this is probably an issue actually that the county will resolve for us. I don't think we probably need to make a comment on this, but it's probably something that we need to be aware of, because I think it probably is quite a fundamental change in terms of the type of business we might have in certain parts of the town. So I think we need to get some more information and try and get on top of it.
Yes, Martin.
I think it may come under the internally what the building was used for was kind of a store where you come and collect an item, you pay for it and you collect it. But then we put a phone shop inside, which then becomes a retail where you're interacting with people. So I think I just covered all bases, but you're probably right in what you're on about the reclassification, Peter.
From my understanding, they're currently in Class A, which is shops, and Class A is no longer going to be used as a single category. What I couldn't find was what Class E was. It doesn't give us any description of what that Class E covers. So I think you're right, Peter. I think the county will have something to say, and they'll know what Class A was. Yeah. But it would be helpful, to say it, and they say it about the how the definitions have changed. But I'm assuming it covers all of those A to D, so they can move within those sections. But it's not clear.
That's my assumption, and I think that's the intention of the change, to make it easier to change from a cafe to a dentist without actually having to do anything about it. I'm a little bit surprised that we haven't been consulted on this. Unless we've missed something, but I doubt that we have, because I really haven't heard anything about it until this afternoon when I opened this one up to have a look at it. So I think we'll contact county and try and get a little bit more background.
Yes, Martin.
I think as well, Chairman, I think it's on the case of what business rate you'd play applicable. So if you were quite smart, if you set up a unit that was just sort of a stores area where you come and collect stuff, and then you put a retail part in, what rates would you be paying then? And I think that's why this has been brought in, because people have been creating premises within a premise, which we all know about if you look at other premises in the town. But Linda's got Jan's got her hand up there.
Yes, Janet.
Sorry, I was just reading. I'm parallel processing. It said the new Class E allows for a mix of uses within a premises to reflect changing retail requirements. So Martin was right, I think.
Okay.
It allows multi-use of a site.
Right. Okay. Okay.
What I can't see at a glance is whether everyone will have to go through and reapply.
Could we ask the, well, might not be the specific planning officers dealing with this, but somebody at the at NCC and the planning department for a kind of explanation of what's happening here, and whether it is the case that all the businesses may need to reapply for change of use. It will be handy for us to understand the process, I think. Because
I think it would, because I think it could be quite fundamental. Because on my initial reading this afternoon, for example, Argos could turn into a Frankie and Benny's, I think, without any planning application, and that is quite fundamental. So we do need to understand it.
Yeah.
Yes, John.
Yeah, I'd just say I think it'd be a good idea if we had some idea of parameters of this multi-use. It's a bit of an over pan-technical word, isn't it, really? And I think we need to have a little bit more definition, even if we perhaps have little influence. It's, as you quite rightly say, Martin, we should be aware of these things.
Is it a position where we need to put in an objection at this point until we're clear of understanding what's going to happen here?
I think
go as far as an
county would
objection.
do that on our behalf, Martin. I think they will understand the legislation better at the moment than
Okay. So what we need to do is learn better about what this means for us and for future application changes. Yeah.
Sure.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you very much, everybody. 20-03667, Prue TPO St Paul's RC Church, Percy Street, Alnwick, tree preservation order, various works to trees, see tree report. Yes, Linda.
It's not a tree report, it's a list of the trees and what they're going to do to them. That doesn't say anything about the trees at all, why they're doing it. I can understand there's a lot of trees and they probably need some work done on them, but it's not a report, it's just a list.
Yeah, okay, so we've got a list of 27 trees or something, I think. No, more. Well, no, there's some missed out, isn't there? As Linda points out, it is simply, and there isn't any other application information, I don't think, really, with this application. It is simply a list of a set of tree works, basically, that's going to occur. Yes, Jeff.
Yeah, I've been down to have a look. It's what they call epicomic growth, which is when you manage trees and you'll raise the crown, and some trees will actually, where you cut after a few years, the tree will try and replace that cut branch with another branch, either above the cut or below the cut. And I think what they're doing here is they're just going round and removing that growth to keep the tree looking as it should. I think it's general maintenance. It's a beautiful group of trees. If you ever get the chance to go and have a look at them, they are really nice, and they're well looked after. And I think this is just every few years you have to go around and remove the epicomic growth. I can't see any problem with it, to be honest.
No.
They're going to remove a buddleia, I think, which is causing some damage. But you know what buddleia are like. If they get into a wall, you can destroy it. So I've got no problem with it, to be honest.
I suppose from a technical point of view, as Linda's pointed out, it is just a list of the work they're going to do, and this is a tree preservation order application, so they ought to have provided an arboricultural report to say why they wanted to do the work. I'm kind of guessing that the kind of 5 meters and 6 meters that are cited in that report, in the list there, are the kind of heights that these trees have been trimmed to in previous times when they've been maintained. So I think we're okay with it. They're not, obviously, there could be quite a lot of work to go on here. It's difficult to say exactly how many branches are going to come off. But I think the point that we should make is that we really should have seen or the officers should be clear that they've seen an arboricultural report, especially with the number of trees that we're talking about, that are going to be worked on before they sign off. And if not, the tree officer has a look at the site to make sure that he's happy with the application. Because obviously, yeah, as I say, a major number of trees and huge important to the town, so they need to looked after properly. Okay. There are 2 more applications which have just come through today, which I'm hoping you've got on your revised agendas. 2003228 FUL 4 Grosvenor Terrace, Clayport Street. A single-storey rear extension with flat roof, replacement of windows and door and frame to southeast elevation with new timber sliding sash windows and timber door and frame. Because I think this is the.
This is probably the best document
heritage
that sort of shows the proposed change. Probably needs a zoom if I can work out how to zoom in.
Yeah, I can probably talk you through this because I've actually done under a previous owner. I've actually done some work at this house. So the what they're proposing to do, as far as I can see, is in sort of dig out the garden area to make a patio, and then put in a single-story extension, which is I can't read it there, breakfast room or something. I think they've marked it as, and kind of join on that little room to the left-hand side there onto the main part of the house. Essentially, is what they're appearing to do, and then refit the kitchen by the look of it. It's a listed building, but I think the rear parts of it are much more recent additions. Just quite an old building. The front part of it is quite an old building, and then the rear parts are more recent additions. Does anybody have any thoughts? I think there are some photographs of the rear of the property. Probably shows kind of how it might work, Peter. Yeah. So that's existing, obviously, and I think they're going to build out a single-story extension. Yeah. Yes, Jeff.
Yeah, once again, it's just adapting an old building for modern living. Plans look fine, look beautiful, actually. I think it's been well thought out. I have no problems with it.
Okay. The only question that went through my mind, I don't know because I know nothing about the windows on the front of the building. It seems as if they're saying they're going to replace all the windows on the door at the front of the building, which obviously is on the listed part. They're saying that they're beyond repair. Now, I have no knowledge of those windows at all as to what state they might be in, but it seems to me that will be the issue that the Conservation Officer particularly may want to take a close look at, because it is an old building. I think it's 17 something or other it's got on marked into the guttering on the building, and yeah, how old those windows are, I don't know, but obviously changing them for new ones if it isn't necessary needs to be checked. Janet.
We've had no LBC, we've just had a full application, so whether the LBC is on its way, because this only came in I think yesterday.
Okay.
So the LBC might be to follow.
Right. Well, I suppose we can put a flag up that
we would expect one.
Expect to see an LBC, particularly for the works at the front of the building, certainly. Okay. Yes, Martin.
Just with my experience, you know where I am with windows and stuff, but there is loads of companies now that can replenish old single glazed windows without the need to install double glaze or try and get away with double glazing. But you know my views on double glaze, it's a waste of money, and a shutter's a better idea anyway. But just the point I was trying to make was that there is a lot of companies that can repair and replace sash windows to their original without having to go for new on the front.
Okay, thank you, Martin. That's fine. Yeah, I'm sure the Conservation Officer will be on top of that aspect of it. If there's historical significance in those windows, and they can be recovered. Okay, so finally, I'm going to well, I'll read it out. I'm going to declare an interest in this one, but 2003354 Feltypio Cragview Cottage, Almouth Road. Tree preservation order application for removal of 1 sycamore tree and crown raise another 6 trees to remove low branches. Now, I know you have considered this application before at the meeting when I wasn't present, and it has come back for re-evaluation. I think some more evidence has been put. So if we could elect a temporary chair for this application, I would propose it to Martin Harrington as is the vice chair.
I'll second that.
Okay, you're in the chair, Martin.
I accept your challenge, Martin. So people, just have to gain a little bit of a revamp for everybody's benefit.
Sorry, Martin, I didn't realise it was this one. I don't seem to have an updated agenda. I know these people as well. Should I declare an interest too?
I would say so, yes, or just no comment.
No comment, yeah.
No comment.
Okay, no problem.
Moving forward. So if you can just let that go up a little bit more, Peter.
That way?
I just gone through it so we can see the pictures.
Yeah, it's worth having a read through. This came in very late in the day today, so I haven't had a great deal of time, but it is one that we've looked at before, and I think we asked for some additional information. Is that right, Janet?
Yes, we objected to it last time because there wasn't enough information.
No. And this certainly provides quite a bit more.
To note, as well as this document, the tree officer has made comments.
Yeah.
This document's very helpful.
Yeah, I'll whiz through this, and I've got the tree officer's comments as well. But this should give you a feel for what they're talking about and why they want to move one sycamore tree. If I'm going too fast, then
that's fine.
Let me know. Okay. And then if I pull up the tree officer's comment. There you go.
Can I just ask something, Martin?
I was going to say, Peter, have you read this yourself? Have you, Peter Haley?
Yeah, very, very briefly, because we've got it later on in the day, Martin.
What I'm thinking is am I right when I'm reading that? Is that saying that I don't think that has been sufficient justification for the removal of this tree, and just to prune it, and it should be fine from there. In the second part, no objection to proposed work, but I recommend Pollard back to unions.
Yeah.
So really, it's just, if it works. Sorry, Jeff.
Isn't that a different tree?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's replying about 2 applications, I think.
All right.
Yeah.
The first paragraph is the one that
is this one, yeah.
Is removal, yeah.
Yeah.
Am I correct? Sorry for interrupting, Martin. Am I correct in reading that as the tree officer saying he does not support the removal?
That's what I read first of all. So say, may other works be considered to clear parts of the tree from the property. I can't support the removal without further information or reason other than options of management and have not been considered. Removal of lower branches is no objection. So that's a pretty practical statement to say that not to knock the tree down, but professionally trim the tree back in a suitable manner.
Maybe just this one, because it's specifically for trees, Martin, just to reiterate the comments of the tree officer.
Sorry, Martin, can I just see the photographs again? Can you scroll them more slowly so I can just have a look?
Yeah.
Oh, Jeff, you're so demanding.
I'll put wrong document.
I just don't want to dismiss this poor chap's request without sufficient. I can understand him living under that tree. It's a big tree.
Shouldn't have bought the house, should he?
No, exactly my view. The tree was there before him.
Exactly. No, in practical terms, you've got to be practical. Everybody has different views, and the gentleman has a genuine request to do what he wishes to do, or the family wishes to do. And I think we've went around it the right way in asking for professional advice. It's a tree. trees grow up, they get big.
So I'm presuming, sorry, Martin, I'm presuming that the tree offers, I can see one quite large branch coming out and going over the property. I'm presuming the tree officer, when he says other works, would be suggesting that that large branch be removed, and that would certainly take a lot of weight from that side of the tree. If that's the case,
Yes,
I think we should.
that's
support
my
the tree
interpretation
officers.
as well, Jeff.
Yeah, and if that's the case, I think we should support the tree officer's view that rather than cut the tree down, which would be a terrible shame because it looks like a beautiful mature tree, is to
And I think
remove the branch and
I think if it was done
alleviate
correctly,
the problem.
not that I'm a tree officer in any way, would you know yourself, growth will come on an opposite side if some parts is taken away and it balances itself. Oh, Peter's nodding his head. Peter, you're the man. Tell me a little bit more. Now's your chance.
I mean, I think if the tree officer has been to see it and he's given this kind of recommendation, I think that's the case. If there's nothing fundamentally wrong with a tree, then you know it's likely to be structurally sound, and he's given his recommendation, hasn't he? You know, just he's been to see it, he's inspected it, so that's what I think.
Yeah. So is everybody in agreement with just go with the officer who made the reports, findings, and leave it at that?
Yep.
All those in favour, put the report up. Peter, good man. Right, that's that then. Thank you very much. Is that the conclusion? Is that what we need, people?
Mm-hmm.
Okay then. We get Martin back in.
Okay, thank you, Martin. So that I think concludes our planning applications. There's no more came in since the revised agenda. Which moves us on to feedback from Parking Action Plan meeting with Northumberland County Council. Are you going to speak to this, Peter?
Yeah. I mean, I guess the main item on this is the new car park, isn't it, Martin?
Yes.
Yeah. So you'll probably be aware already that we've got the budget has been approved for the new car park. I think it's just under £1 million the total cost of the new car park at the Dutchess High School, which is I think it's great news. For me, it's a good example of our process working as well. So the ideas and the pressure coming through the town council, through the forum, and these things getting into the county council budget, I think it's a really good example of that. Outside of that, Martin, was there anything else?
Well, on that, there will be obviously a planning application come forward for that car park. We haven't seen that yet. I think Richard McKenzie indicated January for that planning application, obviously on the Old Dutchess Community High School site. He did indicate to me in the forum meeting that there will still be space there for some kind of housing as well on that site, which is something that town council asked for when they were talking a couple of years ago, as well as car parking. I think there's 8 electric car charging points on that car park with provision, well, as in cabling for more. We did press them on that point, and that was as far as they seemed to want to go at that point. So we'll wait till we see the planning application. We haven't seen it. Literally, none of us have seen what that actually looks like on the ground. But they've got 196 spaces, I think they've suggested. So they must actually have a plan.
One thing that I did think may come up in the future is actually when is it going to be constructed, and we did push them a little bit on that. Given the size of it, I think it's going to be quite a timely process, and I think that's going to cause problems, because ideally we wouldn't want it being done during the tourist season because we'll be losing a car park. But the reality is, if it's done in the winter, the ground conditions might not be right. So I think there's going to be a difficult decision as to when the work actually starts.
Yeah, absolutely. Because if they take away those 70 spaces, temporary spaces now for next summer, that's going to cause more of an issue than. Yes, Jeff.
Yeah, just a quick point, Chair. Is I think it's vitally important that we emphasise that proper signage to this car park, that people need to be able to find it. There's a new car park and visitors need to be able to find it. It's pointless having a brand new car park and nobody uses it.
Yeah, absolutely. And the best solution would be to make sure that people come into the town from the directions which they approach that car park, sort of so that's from kind of Rothbury direction and from the north, is that they're directed to that car park rather than trying to get through the town centre. And people coming in from the south go to Greenwell Road, kind of end of things. Otherwise, we just get more traffic through the town centre, which doesn't help anybody. Yes, Linda.
Mute.
I've got a space bar that works some of the time. Sorry, just on the point about the timely construction of it, didn't Richard agree that it should be September onwards that it would start rather than at the height of the season?
I don't quite recall, but I think that would be the only thing that would make sense, really, because obviously we know that car parks will use during the summer. Yeah. Okay, so that was the car park. The only thing was discussed was the cycle racks, but they're further on the agenda anyway, I think. I don't think there's anything else discussed at that meeting, basically. Okay, so move on to, unless anyone else got anything else on that, concerns regarding traffic turning into Alnwick Cemetery. So whether you want to talk to this, Linda, you may know more about it than I do.
Yeah, thanks, Martin. I was thanking the lads for their work they were doing on the seats, and Sid Carr showed me this video, which I'll share with you, about an occurrence that happens daily, he says, and it's because cars and because of the narrowness of those gates at the cemetery, they have to pull into the middle of the road. They have to do a big U-turn to get into the gates. And cars come down from the roundabout at the Marks and Spencer's Wilburn end, and undertake them. And this is what had happened. I think it was the day before. I've never done this before. I've never successfully done this before. So is it? This is what happened.
Is this Sid's car? Is this the van?
No, this was the I don't know which it was. Oh, I think it was Sid's car, and he said there wasn't a mark on his car. We're coming up to it. This is it.
Well, that's their fault. Stupid.
But he said it happens daily, and I'll stop it.
I presume he had his left-hand indicator on.
Yeah.
Yeah. But what Sid was saying was that he felt that there should be currently. Oh, hang on, I've lost my video now. Oh, there we are. Oh, because I've got to stop sharing, haven't I? Sorry. Right. What he's saying is that there's slow on the road, written on the road, but he felt that the signage could be improved to say warning vehicles turning or whatever. I don't know what the appropriate signage would be, but because it happens so often, he's really concerned that there's going to be quite a serious accident there.
Well, I mean, I've obviously got to speak from my personal point of view because I go in there fairly regularly. And yes, when I'm coming up from the south, I do swing out to the road, but with plenty of indication well beforehand. I can't say I've ever had that. But and again, that's obviously you proved the point, but I don't really see what you can do. I mean, it's just the stupidity of the drivers coming on the inside, isn't it? So, I mean, you can't legislate for lunatics, unfortunately. And even if you put a sign cemetery ahead or whatever you want to do, it doesn't make any difference if someone is stupid enough to come racing up the hill. I mean, you've got to go at a fair speed anyway up the hill in order to not see somebody trying to turn in.
Could we not consider a sign saying caution vehicles turning, because that happens in other places, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not against signs by any means, don't take me wrong, but I just feel that, you know, I don't know how often Sid, I'll have a word with Sid, I don't know how often he's seen this happen.
He
But
says daily, he says he sees it daily.
does he? Well, it's probably because there's a lot more, traffic around these days than there used to be, yeah.
He's only asking us to consider better signage, that's all he's asking.
Yeah, no harm in signage, but as I say, I don't know really whether it would do a lot of good, but there we go.
Okay, thank you. Martin Harrington.
Yeah, I'm saying that footage is quite frightening, to be honest with you, because if I'd been somebody walking on the footpath,
yeah,
and that's not, that kid wasn't going 20 miles an hour. He'd have been 40 or 50 because he's braked, managed to get a gap, and then still hit the wall and stop himself. So I agree with Sid's concerns with warning signs and seeing what the highways can do to making people slow down. But it's a big issue everywhere. I went along that road from the roundabout, just came past the garage, New Morrison's garage, and a guy had, whatever he had done, he'd end up hitting the metal framed on the left-hand side and spun in the middle of the road, and the car was ripped to bits. Speed. It's speed. No policing of speed whatsoever in our town. There's no tickets given out. There's nothing. So until you start cracking down on the speed, you're going to have issues. And you can put as many signs up as we like. But if you've got young Buckaroo there with his nice Volkswagen Golf, not a very nice Volkswagen Golf, no.
No, I mean, I've seen a similar thing with people coming up from the town, turning into the Willowburn Industrial Estate.
Speed, John, every day.
It's all about speed, exactly.
Yes, Jeff.
So,
a couple of things. I mean, I've tried to get out of that entrance, and it can be scary as well because cars do come around that bend quite fast. Getting out can be quite tricky. I just wonder, as far as signage concerned, as if we could put something up saying concealed entrance, and whether we could consider a 20-mile-an-hour speed limit until you get past that entrance. It is quite dangerous getting in and out of there.
Yeah, I must admit, when I come out of the cemetery, I always turn left.
Yeah.
And go down that way. Yeah.
So yeah, signage wise, concealed entrance, I would suggest, perhaps a 20-mile-an-hour limit. Whether that would slow people down, I don't know, but at least it's a step in the right direction. I agree with Martin. There's too many speeding vehicles careering around.
Yep.
Yes, Martin.
Just moving on, people can remember the application for the new Holiday Inn or the Travel Lodge. It's going to be the same issue turning right on the brow of that hill. So an opportunity now to sort of get involved with somebody in the right department and let everybody slow down a bit, because it is a bad turning in, out, or turning right or turning left. Let's take it by the scruff of the neck and just try and get people slowed down.
Yeah.
Linda.
Yeah, I would totally agree. I mean, I especially when we had the music festival store there, coming out that side, visibility is good, the entrance is good, there's not the issues that we're talking about on the other side of the road, and it's still really dangerous getting out. And I like John, I always turn left coming out and then go to the roundabout and turn round.
Yeah.
So something to alert people of the dangers at that bit of the town would be useful.
John?
Yeah, I would say you can't legislate for people because on several occasions I've been driving along and there's been somebody wants to turn right into the garage, and perhaps they haven't gone quite far enough to the middle of the road, but another car will go up on the grass round to overtake them instead of waiting just 20 seconds. They won't wait. And I don't know if it's me or whether I'm being biased, but when I look, they don't have Northumberland plates on the car. But maybe that's neither here nor there.
Martin, quickly.
Yeah, I would imagine there's a lot of statistics for the crashes that have been from that roundabout in that stretch of road. There'll be a lot of statistics on how many crashes there's been. Because John, you're bang on. When you're going turning right into the garage, I've seen crashes there. I must have seen 20 crashes there.
Yeah.
So I think it needs to be addressed.
It does. It does.
Yes, Peter.
Yeah, I'm happy to bring it up with Richard Mackenzie if you think that's the right way to go with it. I would guess there's probably going to be a number of stages to this. So probably signage will be the first stage of something. until actually we can spend some money to do what we need to do when the hotel goes in there. But I'll bring it up with Richard and address that, and probably get an update at the next forum. Linda's probably the best way to do that. We can perhaps ask Richard to come up with some solutions for the next forum.
Yes, Janet?
I was just going to suggest, if it's a safety issue, which obviously it is, might want to go straight to Graham Bucknell rather than go through Richard.
Okay.
Because he might have someone else who looks at things that are particularly to do with road safety rather than.
Okay, can we send that footage to him?
I was going to say, Peter, if you send that footage, that'll make their eyes water a bit.
Yeah, if you could send that through to me, Linda, that'd be good.
Yeah, we'll
Okay, thank you. I mean, to me, you know, two cars fronting each other is one thing. That kind of incident where a footpath is obviously is gouged by a car is potentially. I mean, school children walk to and fro that path every single day, and you know, 2 or 3 people could have been killed in that instant. And it
Am
is.
I right in thinking there's a bus stop just beside there as well?
Just further up.
Further along.
Further up,
It's further down nearer Aldi.
Yes, Peter.
What's probably happening, just thinking about it in that instance, is so for example, Sid probably is indicating left, but then as he pulls right to get into the centre of the road, his indicator's probably going off, and the assumption is that he's trying to turn into the trading estate. And that's probably what's happening. So I can see how that could happen quite a bit.
It is possible, but if you drive up there and look closely, if you look closely at that clip, you realise that he's not even over the white line, I don't think, of the road when he's indicating to turn left. So there isn't actually very much room on the inside to get a car past. So the guy must have been going really fast and just had nowhere to go, so he'd gone through the gap. But you know, serious. I mean, to me, the safety issue for the pedestrians really is the thing there. So we need to get that addressed. Absolutely. But, I mean, other than widening the entrance to the cemetery, and it is very narrow, but of course it's all listed and all the rest of it.
Well, we can't do that.
It would be a massive undertaking to do that. But I mean, if you're coming from the town side, you're turning right into the cemetery, you kind of do it reasonably well. And but turning left is difficult. I don't know what the hearses do when they come from that direction, but they must have to swing right out onto the road.
Sid particularly mentioned the hearses, their turning point.
Yeah. Okay, so if we could bring that up as a matter of urgency, Janet, with NCC, and give them the footage of that as well, because it clearly illustrates that there's a serious potential there. But how often it happens, we don't know. But if it happens once, it could be way too many. It really could, because that is a route to school. That is actually an official route to school for the school children. Okay, thank you, Linda, for bringing that up. Cycle parking revised plan. Would you got anything to share, Peter, or did you share it with the committee at an earlier stage?
I'm about to share it on screen, I think.
Okay, so the committee remember that I think it was in August we were consulted on cycle rack positions in the centre of the town. I think we had a list of 9 or 10 positions. So the other thing that happened at the parking meeting was we were given a new list of the ones that have actually been approved. I think they were doing this in 10 or 12 towns across the county, and I think I saw a report that they'd actually NCC had gone to the central government for a pot of funding for this. So we've been allocated 5 stands in the locations on the list there, which is a huge step forward in terms of cycle parking in the town centre. If we're going to encourage people to cycle, they need somewhere to safely put their bikes. As long as they don't obstruct the footpath, then I don't see that it's a huge issue, and it's a step forward. I would welcome that. I don't know if anybody has any comments. They're going to be black stands, I think, and we did pass this at the Sustainable Travel Group. We passed it past the Civic Society, and they were in favour of it. So I think everybody's kind of. Martin Podven did say there would be a kind of walk around. I did ask if we could be involved in that. I don't know if that's happened yet or not. I've heard nothing from Martin about that, just to actually pin down the actual locations and make sure they weren't going to be obstructing anybody walking along the street, basically. Okay, so that's cycle parking, and then resident parking schemes. I know originally Peter Broom brought this up, and again, Peter's not here, unfortunately, tonight. But resident parking schemes was discussed at the parking meeting, and I'll let Peter tell us what happened.
Yeah, well, the first point was that the actual cost of the permits wasn't going up as we thought. It was an error. So it's actually, which changes the whole complexion of the argument completely. So it's very much more in line with the cost that they currently are. So £25, not £280, I think is the thing. So that's the first thing to dismiss. We also discussed with Paul Jones his potential willingness to review parking schemes in their entirety. He was very reluctant to do so, but he would potentially review a scheme if evidence was put forward to suggest that it needed to be done. So is that a fair assessment, Martin?
I think so, yes. Unfortunately, Peter Broom, who's the councillor that brought this up, has a specific scheme. I think he has some concerns about. I wonder whether it could be improved. So I wonder if you could have a word with Peter Broom, Peter, and just discuss that with him. Obviously, he's not in the meeting to answer to the point. I think it would basically be a kind of consultation with, or it would have to come from the residents, unless the town council had some real evidence that the scheme could maybe be improved. Not to say that we couldn't look at that, and not to say that NCC wouldn't look at it, but they certainly weren't very keen on a widespread kind of consultation on parking schemes at this point. Yes, Martin Harrington.
Just before Janet there, man, just got in before you there, Janet. I think it was the nuts and bolts of what this was a review of the parking permits was that people who had the schemes weren't naturally getting the benefit of them and were taking up a lot of spaces in certain parts. I think the Monkhouse Terrace one was a key one in that. And I think if you could maybe, if they'd done a bit more work from the parking scheme people, they might find that that's the case, rather than just saying, well, we're not very happy to look at things at this very minute in time because we're bigger fish to fry. But the point being is, if you're looking for parking spaces and people aren't using them, it gets people annoyed. In the town centre, people get annoyed, and the people who have got the schemes get annoyed. So it's not a case of, we should really keep in it and have a look at certain areas that come to light and going back to the guy directly who's in charge of that. If you don't mind, Peter, Martin, do you think that's probably a good line of fire? Because I think that's fine. I mean, Peter Broom obviously brought it up, and he had a specific one or two, one I think, which he felt, I think it was a Monkhouse Terrace, which he felt could perhaps be improved. But I think probably what we would need to do to progress it, obviously Peter can speak to Councillor Broom directly, but is to actually have some evidence in terms of photographs or whatever of what's going on in the daytime and what goes on at night time, and see what NCC would think about that, but also maybe talk to the residents as well. But maybe it's something Councillor Broom may be prepared to do. I know he lives in that area. Janet, I think first.
Yeah, it was just to say, I think we were surprised how many people did have permits in some of those areas. There was quite a few people. I think Peter's concern was Monkhouse Terrace. And I think his concern wasn't that he wanted to get rid of it as a resident area, but that it could be a better resident area, because the one outside Bondgate without works much better. The residents get spaces when they need it. People can park when the residents don't need it. So it was that. I think it was the type of parking schemes that were around that sit empty most of the day and could be used, and then freed up when the residents come home at 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, whatever it needs to be.
Yeah, I think they're referred to as hybrid schemes, and there was the people can park in the daytime and then residents at night time. Yes, Linda.
The thing that concerned me about that meeting was that Richard said that they would not consider any change to any of the schemes unless the residents themselves had brought it to the meeting. And that really did concern me, because I don't think the residents are going to say, oh no, I'm not going to, you know, allow parking during the day, because there might be a day when I want to park there and I can't. So I don't think that'll ever happen. And that did concern me when he said that.
It was Paul Jones who was.
Paul, sorry, I beg
yeah.
your pardon.
Yeah, but obviously on you know, I'm trying to remember what it's called, St Michael's Square, isn't it? That scheme has been is a hybrid scheme. I think it was made into a hybrid scheme, so there must be a mechanism somehow there for schemes to be reviewed. But we need a bit more evidence. But I think some direct conversation with Councillor Brew might be helpful to just to pin down exactly what the possibilities are. And we can take it forward, yeah, if we feel that it's worthwhile doing so. I don't think Paul Jones was closing the door on it. I think he just didn't want to get into a big kind of discussion on lots of parking schemes. I think was my take from the meeting. Okay, right. We'll move on to any other urgent business. Looking around the meeting here. No. That's great. Okay, well, I think this will be the last town council meeting of the year. I think. So I'll wish you all a very happy Christmas, and hopefully a much better New Year than the one we've just been through. And I will see you in the new year. Thank you very much, everybody.
Good Christmas,
Happy
everyone.
Yeah.
Good night.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Okay, see you later.
Bye.
What are you doing?